What is your name and what do you do?
My name is Olivia Crowley, and I'm a project manager and designer with Urban Lumber Company.
What got you interested in design?
I've always been interested in art, and I've been drawing and painting since I could write. Maybe beforehand even, finger paints go way back with me. But I always really wanted to, create something, and with products, it's like the perfect scenario of a useful thing for somebody and something that's also beautiful. When I was in school, like starting in, I think, the second grade, I started doing a lot of sculptures and clay and other materials, and I've always really enjoyed that. And I wanted to make sure that I could do something sculptural and 3D later on in life too. And furniture is three-dimensional and is kind of sculpture in its own. But everybody uses furniture, so it's a really easy way to bring beautiful objects into everybody's life, whether it be a dining table for somebody's house or a conference table for an entire business's executive meetings. It's been really rewarding to know that people from all walks of life in a lot of different spaces are interacting with some of the things that I've designed.
What does a designer do exactly?
So a designer is in charge of making sure that, or in my field anyways, I do product design. So I make sure that objects that you interact with, mainly tables is what we do here, are taken from an idea to a usable shop drawing to an actual product.
What sort of materials do you work with here in the shop?
I definitely am a thrifty person myself. And I really enjoy things that are secondhand. And although our tables are a brand new construction, these trees have been around for hundreds of years. And so we're kind of giving them a second life in their own regard. It's a shame to see a tree come down, but all of the trees that we use are sustainably salvaged. They come from urban trees. So they come down if there's like a power line that needs to go up, or they're diseased, or there was a storm. And oftentimes it'll be on somebody's property, and we come and pick it up and slab it into something that could be a tabletop, kiln dry it over the course of a few years, and then turn it into a table. And oftentimes we've been able to return one of those pieces of furniture back to the family that originally had the tree. And that's kind of a beautiful process for me. It's making sure that even though the tree's life as an organism is over, it can live as a table for another 100 to 200 years. So I think that making sure that the design aspect of that product's life is, timeless in itself is really important. A lot of the design work we do here, we like to call gritty, sophisticated. We do a lot of live edge work, which is, just taking the tree's natural shape and, kind of going with it in the design process.
What do you love about your job?
I, in general, really love my job. A lot of what I get to do is completely custom every day, so no 2 days are the same. I really like that about my job. Custom furniture is always a new challenge. I really appreciate how much responsibility my bosses give me in my job. I'm the only one who does computer modeling here, and I work with the whole team to make sure that every construction drawing I do is actually possible. But I think that there's a lot of room for artistic expression here. I know what works and what doesn't from being here for 3.5 years, and I don't know, I just feel like I'm really lucky to have such a supportive team here. While I do, computer modeling and design work for them, everybody who works at Urban Lumber is insanely talented, and I'm just really honored to be part of that. My job is a lot of working on the computer, but it's like sculpting with clay without wasting materials. I don't have to scrap anything. There's just an undo button, so it really allows me to try a bunch of different styles, and they take no time whatsoever to get a visual for. So it's really fun to work with a client on a project and have them just kind of give you free reign. I want an 8-foot table, and I want the base to be metal, and to me that's open game for anything. So it's really fun to be able to select materials that work with the rest of their environment, suggest things too, and try to come up with something that's completely unique. I've got to work on not only tables, but chairs, Murphy beds, kitchens, you name it, we've kind of done it here. We once turned a Jeep into a grill outside. I have designed a 3-sided ping pong table for an outdoor patio. And each one of these projects is just a sentence. And then we get to take that sentence of like, I want to play ping pong with 3 people and figure out how it works. Those kinds of creative problem solvings, I could do those forever. It's really, really fun.
What sort of skills do you need to be a product designer?
I think to be a product designer, you need to have good spatial reasoning. So you need to be able to visualize a space and kind of know how much room something's going to take up. And if you can't do that well, get a tape measurer. I have a tape measurer with me at all times, except for right now during this interview. I think that being able to be open to suggestions from others is really important. Everything I do, I might come up with a design, but I got to work with an entire team to make sure that it's feasible. I have a lot of people check my work, and just what I think might be the best option might not be what the client wants. So being able to work as a team is probably the biggest requirement for being a good designer, is knowing when to say yes and when to say, I'm okay with your suggestion on this. But as far as schooling goes, I took a lot of art classes. I did shop. I know how to use a lot of woodworking tools so that I can make sure that I know how things are built. I don't want to make something ridiculously complicated because then it gets more expensive too. I also have done computer modeling. So I use SketchUp here, which is free for use if you're a student. It's a really, really great tool, and you should definitely try it out if you are at all interested in 3D modeling. And then math. I use fractions all day. There's a lot of angles that go into a bunch of our different table bases. If you look at any chair, almost none of the angles are going to be 90 degrees. So you need to figure out how that is shaped and what's comfortable for the human body. So, sitting in different things and checking out how comfy it is, it all comes down to like 1 or 2 degrees of an angle. So yeah, definitely check out more math classes. Geometry is your friend. Nobody really likes fractions until you have to use them, and I use them 8 hours a day. Yeah, so teamwork, math, art, and computer modeling are the major things that you need to learn if you want to be a product designer.
What sort of students might be drawn to design?
I think it's important to be creative. So if you're really interested in art or theater, it might be fun for you to think about designing objects. I think that students who really like to be organized would be really good in design as well. In addition to designing objects, I also have to manage the projects and make sure that they actually get done. So I have a lot of clipboards in my everyday life. I use a lot of spreadsheets, and you got to be ready for it. Designing a commercial space means working with a lot of people, and making sure that you are on time and you know what's going on is really important. So if you like to organize your binder with color-coded sheets, maybe product design is for you too. We could definitely use you. I think that people who love to read would be good in design as well. I am constantly researching things because I know that I'm not the first person to design a wooden dining table, and I want to see who did it best. So if you like researching, design might be a good choice for you as well. There's a saying that I think it's like the best design is a stolen design. A lot of designers work off of other people's work as an inspiration. So you got to be able to understand that you can learn things from other people, and it's really important to understand what designs came before yours and why yours is different and maybe better or maybe equal. So being humble about your design work and ready to research what's already happened is really important. So readers, researchers, organizers, and creatives should all look into design work.
How would you describe your career journey?
Well, I guess maybe I'll start with my schooling. I graduated from a public school, and then I went to a public university. I got a 4-year degree in art and design. I have a bachelor's. And so when I was in school, I worked part-time throughout all of college. Some of my jobs were in computer departments at school. I worked in the experimental design and media lab at my library. And so I got to test a bunch of new and upcoming design tools and teach other people how to use software. And that was really helpful for me learning it myself. So if you have an opportunity to volunteer or work at a local library, they have some incredible tools there. A lot of stuff I couldn't afford on my own that I was able to use there for free and talk to somebody who knew how to make it work for me. So that really helped me. I used a lot of art tablets at school that I would never be able to afford now. And I don't know, I tested my skills after school in the computer lab there. I was there really late, like all the time in college. But after I graduated, I got an internship, not in my field, because I wanted to find somewhere else to live, and I moved to Oregon. I worked for a nonprofit for a while, and that was in affordable housing. I am really I'm very passionate about affordable housing, but it isn't what I got my degree in. So I got a part-time job as a graphic designer for a local web development company. So I had 2 jobs for a while. And then I transitioned over to being a full-time web designer. And from that, I found this job. And so I've been full-time at Urban Lumber as their project manager for 3.5 years now.
How would you describe your career journey in a couple of words?
That's really hard. A career journey in a couple of years. All right, a couple words. I think my career journey is, I don't want to say lucky because I know that I've worked really hard for it, but I feel really lucky. I think that it's been fun and fast-paced. I've been working full-time at one job or two since I graduated college, and that I know that not everybody has that opportunity, but it's been really wonderful to be able to have something to do for 40 hours a week that is creative. Yeah, it's been really rewarding. I've been building up responsibility for years now, and I don't know, I'm the only designer here, and it feels really cool to have an eye on every single project. And yeah, I guess fast-paced, lucky, and satisfying.
What inspires you creatively?
I'm a total chair nerd. I look at every single chair in restaurants, in stores, in offices. So if I go to a restaurant, I'm the annoying person who's like going underneath the table to see what kind of joints they used on their table base. So I try to just like take in things in the everyday because I'm designing objects for every day. As far as big inspiration, I really like Danish design. I studied in Denmark for a little while when I was in college, and that was really fantastic because they're really well known for their furniture design, and it gave me an eye on how things are designed in another part of the world. I also really like natural shapes. I think that oftentimes nature is the best designer. So I'm really into Fibonacci sequence and how that affects our lives and shapes of objects. And I like the shapes of, leaf patterns or pitcher plants and succulents. And I'm really interested in how different curves naturally occur in nature. And I think that, it's really easy to make a rectangle. And I try to think outside the box a lot of the time when I'm working here, because we're working with natural objects. And, harping back to that is kind of cool.
What kind of challenges have you encountered along the way?
Yeah, I have imposter syndrome a lot of the time. I'm really young for what I'm doing. I'm in charge of a lot, and I'm 27 years old. I've been working here since I was 24, and I was the youngest person in the shop then. So to be in charge of running meetings and to be the person who's doing all of the drawings, it's really intimidating to feel like people, expect you to be right in what you're doing. Having responsibility can be intimidating sometimes, but I think that, we're all doing a little bit better than we give ourselves credit for. And everybody has imposter syndrome. So even though I love my job, it's something that I still work with nowadays. I'm also a woman in the lumber industry, and there are like 3 of us. There's no women in like construction and lumber compared to how many guys there are. I work with 2 women in a company of 20. So that can be difficult too, but I think it's important to know your worth and stand your ground. And if you're right, then like speaking up for yourself is incredibly important in the design industry. There are a lot of people with big egos in the creative industry, and knowing how to work with that and work through it is really important. I try to get along with everybody, but I also want to get the job done. So, there's a balance of being kind and being efficient at work, and I try to do both as much as I can. But yeah, that's been hard, dealing with people's egos, and design is really personal. If somebody doesn't like something that you created yourself, that can be hard to take. But at the end of the day, this is a job, and there's money involved, and I'm not the one buying the table at the end of the day. So stepping aside and making sure it's exactly what somebody wants when they paid for it is really important as well.
How can students find their own voices?
Yeah, design is really, based on personal preference. It's subjective. Not everybody's gonna like your work, but I try to like my work. I try not to design anything just to meet a prompt. I want it to be something I can be proud of. And I think that when you're really passionate about something, it becomes more attractive to other people too. If you look at somebody who's just designed a chair and they're next to it and they're like beaming, you're gonna wanna know why. And if you talk to somebody about design and like a project they've just done, they will tell you every single detail that makes them proud. And I try to do that as much as I can. It's easy to do that here because we do really cool stuff. And we have really cool clients. But I think just like leaning into your personal preference in design can get you a long way. Not everybody wants everything to be cookie cutter. That's what stock photos are for. I'm not designing stock photos. I'm trying to design new stuff. I think that I also, I've been told that I'm very smiley and bubbly, and I try to design the same way when I have the opportunity to do it. I think that bringing a little bit of fun into design is really important, because I work in a cubicle, but it's a fun cubicle because we made it that way. I think that, just being yourself is really important, because that will make you stand out in the design world. Not everything has to be just like crisp edges, super modern, unless that's what you're into, just like go the whole way. Don't try to appease others. If you have a really good idea, test it out and see what happens.